My guests today are no strangers to the public eye. Rebecca St. James is a Grammy Award-winning recording artist with millions of albums sold, as well as a successful actress, author, and mother of three. And her husband, the equally accomplished Grammy-nominated artist and filmmaker Cubbie Fink, joins us today to share for the first time a glimpse into their love story and family life in their brand new memoir, Lasting Ever. Welcome to 100 Huntley Street, Rebecca and Cubbie.
Mark.
Thank you.
It's great to be
us.
back.
It's great. Yeah, welcome back to you and welcome for the first time, Cubbie. Rebecca, I'm going to start with you. I mean, there's so much to cover in this book. Thoroughly enjoyed reading your story and getting acquainted with some of the more intricate details, intimate details of your life before Cubbie, your life before Rebecca, and you coming together and what that means. But your family, the Small Bones, are like Christian music royalty, you know, for people that have been following your career for many years. And your story made it to the silver screen last year. Unsung hero. We featured it on the program. I think we had Joe along when he was talking about it. Chronicled the journey of your family coming to America from Australia in pursuit of new opportunities.
Yep.
And we know it was just easy street from that point on, wasn't it?
Breezy. Yeah.
That was the secret, right?
Yeah.
Talk about that.
It was wild.
Your life on the silver screen.
Yeah, it's very surreal. You know, going to a movie premiere or multiple. I mean, we went to a lot together. Cubbie helped direct and produce, so he's very hands-on. But to see somebody who looks almost identical to you at that time in your life play you, and then your family story, you know, on the big screen is wild. And I think for me it was very redemptive, very full circle to see that story that I've told year after year after year. I mean, last time I was here, I think I was probably sharing that story of our family living by faith, coming to America when I was 14, 6 kids in the family, you know, my dad losing his job soon after we moved to the U.S. And then, you know, living by faith and seeing God do miracles through prayer. I mean, it was amazing. But then seeing God use it now through film and the stories of people's lives being changed and families diving in to prayer in a new way because they saw a family doing it, you know, and praying together very specifically. It's been really sweet.
How did those experiences with music and family influence your understanding of God's love for you?
I think, you know, I gave my life to Jesus when I was 8, and then, you know, really started to see him kind of moving me into music very young, like 12, 13, back in Australia. But I think my faith really kicked in those years, probably from 14 to 16. When you see, you know, your little family, including yourself, praying for money and a car and food and...
It was tough.
Yeah, basic needs to survive. I mean, we were in a furnitureless house and praying for my sister to be able to be born in a hospital and my mom to be kept safe, you know, while in childbirth, things like this. And then you see someone pay for her to be born in a hospital. Someone bring groceries to your doorstep, or checks come in the mail covering, you know, bills by dollars. When you see this kind of specific kindness of God, that changes your life as a teenager, and it just feels very, very loving, you know. And so I think my faith came alive in that time and gave me a testimony to then share when I went full-time at 16 in music.
Now, Cubbie, to kind of bring people up to speed, you guys are living independent lives at this point. You were born in Colorado, but spent most of your life on the West Coast, sunny Southern California. Which
Someone's got to do it.
Some of it I know, suffering for the cause.
That sun.
Yeah. You grew up in a family that was, you know, Bible believing. There was Christian principles taught and values that you were raised with. But what was a pivotal moment for you in your formative years that, you know, God's purpose for your life became evident?
I was born into a home of 2 loving parents who loved Jesus and taught me the ways of the Lord and just through the way they lived their life. But also, you know, sitting down with my mom and learning Bible verses from a very early age. But I came to a point probably midway through junior high, 7th, 8th grade, that I just started asking a lot of questions and not only about, what my parents had taught me, but kind of the world at large, and just tried to piece together what I believed about this existence here on earth, and what was my purpose in the middle of it. And did I believe what my teachers were saying? And did I believe what my friends were saying? And did I believe what my parents had told me? And do I believe what the Bible says? And is Jesus who he really says he is? And so it just kind of led me on this journey of trying to figure out what I believed. And in a lot of ways, I was kind of deconstructing my faith before it was the cool thing to do.
Yeah.
But ultimately on a pursuit of just finding truth and finding purpose, and looked to a lot of different places, looked to Eastern religion and world religion and philosophy, and just kind of tried to piece together this way of life that would put me at peace with myself and the world around me, and ultimately led to the dire opposite. Just ended up in a very hurting, broken, sad, depressed place because nothing seemed to answer the deepest questions of my heart. And in that season, I was kind of being drugged to church by my parents, and there was a youth pastor in that church that was kind of relentlessly pursuing me, and just an incredibly loving Jesus example in my life. And he would invite me to things, and I would sometimes begrudgingly go, and there was a worship event that he invited me to, that at that season of my life, I really had no desire to come anywhere near something like that. But for whatever reason, I ended up saying yes, and ended up on a 15-seater van heading south to downtown San Diego to this worship event. And within the first 5 minutes of that first worship set, I ended up flat on my face in a pile of tears, because God had cut through in an incredibly supernatural way, just the cloud of confusion and hurt and pain and all the things, and just answered that deepest question in my heart, and basically said, I've put you on this planet to worship me and to show others how to worship me. Yeah. And it was such a simple truth, but incredibly profound. And that was the moment that my life changed, that I met Jesus, that my faith became my own. And
to dive into a little bit of your love story, you had been like the poster child for purity and abstinence, waiting until God brought the perfect person into your life. But there were some challenges that accompanied that, being so front and center and vocal about it. Talk to us a little bit about that before, Cubbie, you kind of get into the first time you met Rebecca, because I want to hear it from your point of view.
All right.
Yeah. I mean, there was just a lot of lonely years, I think, of, like you said, being so public about it. I had a song about this future husband that I was praying was out there, and because I really entered Christian music at the time where, especially in the U.S., this true love waits movement, this encouragement to live in holiness in relationships was front and center. And so I was asked to sing at a lot of these events. And I mean, some of them were like 60,000 young people pledging to honor God in relationships. It was very powerful. And it was a good experience for me. But I had this song about purity that I would sing in every show. And it was a big song for me. I'd sing it all around the world, sing it here in Canada. But the year after year after year after year, of waiting and then wondering, does this person exist, was very lonely and very challenging, and got increasingly difficult, honestly, to sing. And so I think when I was out in California, I think God was bringing me to this place of laying down this dream and my kind of obsession with it, and just going, Lord, even if it doesn't happen, help me to trust you and your goodness. Because I think he had to bring me to this place of surrender where it wasn't such an idol, in my life. And that was challenging, but I think it really did set me up for us meeting in LA.
That's amazing. Amazing story. There were a couple of encounters coming, but talk about, talk about that first encounter where you were like, I really want to get to know this lady a little bit more.
I mean, it was very special, and a story that is very fun to tell, but I really found myself in a season in LA where I too had been waiting for the one that God had for me, and that was always a very important value that I held true and held very much a part of my pursuit.
I'm so thankful for that.
Yeah. And the unfortunate thing is trying to find someone that has a similar pursuit or value system in LA is quite challenging, and kind of was at the point of starting to lose a bit of hope that that person existed and that the wait was worth it. And kind of in that 11th hour of beginning to lose hope, I started hearing this name pop up. I had a couple of roommates that started talking about this girl, Rebecca. So my roommates and I had attended this philosophy group in LA, and it was a group of kind of young creative people that would gather and talk about philosophy, and it was run by a guy that wanted to teach philosophy as a foundation for theology. And it was some Christians, some non-Christians, so just a lot of fun, spirited debate, and a lot of people ended up coming to the Lord through this group. But in a season where I wasn't attending regularly because of a TV show that I was working on, somebody started attending in my absence, and my roommates, in the moments that I would catch up with them, they would start dropping this name, Rebecca this, Rebecca that. She's so cool. She's so authentic. I mean, started hearing a lot of great things about this Rebecca girl, and then come to find out that it's, in fact, Rebecca St. James, which was interesting because I was very familiar with her name, but not familiar with her music, which I absolutely should have been. I mean, I grew up, like I said, in a Christian home. Once I came to Jesus, I was obsessed with Christian music, and that's all I listened to. We had her record in our house. I mean, I remember thumbing through our CD collection and seeing her CD, and for whatever reason, never pulling it out and actually putting it in the player. And
which was a protection.
I think in retrospect,
just boy meets girl.
It really was divine protection, because it protected that first encounter, and I didn't have her up on a pedestal, and I didn't have any preconceived notions of what I wanted this to be, especially that first encounter.
And it was pretty amazing, because when we did meet at this TV show rap party that he was at, in my song "Wait for Me," it says, "Waiting for the look in your eyes when we meet for the first time." And literally, we connected eyes across the room, and it was magical. It was like the choir was singing, and it was just
definitely one of those.
He talks about it in depth in the book, but it was really, really sweet and beautiful, and kind of that Hallmark movie moment, really.
I love that. And there were many Hallmark movie moments to follow. I mean, the story lasting ever. I want to encourage our viewers again to get your hands on this book. Just out, like hot off the press. You have this beautiful engagement story. I mean, I don't want to give the whole book away, but there's a beautiful engagement story that happens around Christmas time. And then you finally come together in marriage. And then, to fast track a bit of the story, because we could go through every chapter of the book, but we want to highlight some of the main points in your story. There came the time to have a family and to make that decision, which can be very difficult, very daunting. But then sometimes it can also be coupled with challenges, physical challenges. And talk to us a little bit about that journey, coming to that decision together, and how you navigated those waters of fertility issues and miscarriage, because that's a very real thing for so many people that isn't often talked about.
Totally. Yeah, we fell pregnant, thank the Lord, with our first child very easily, and it was such a grace on that. As I was in my 30s, and I was just so thankful that we both passionately wanted to be parents, and we got pregnant really fast. And then when our daughter was a year old, we kind of started moving into what we call our winter season, which we talk about in the book, because we really wanted this book to be encouraging to people that even when you go through hard times, with the power of God, you can stick it out. And so we wanted to really share authentically about our hard times, as well as all the good and the laughs and the fun. But this winter season was marked by miscarriage. 2 miscarriages for me. He had gone through parting of ways with his band. He was in a huge band. We traveled the world early on in our marriage, and then that kind of fell apart. That that part of our lives together, and it was really difficult, like kind of grieving the loss of that, change of life, job loss, miscarriage. His mom was like very sick and kind of dying at that point too. And it was just a heavy, heavy season. And so learning how to trust God in the middle of that pain, learning how to pursue each other when we both felt equally low and equally in the pain and in the winter. And just learning to trust that God would redeem and he would restore and he would be faithful. I think that there was so much richness and good in the winter, but when you're in it, it's hard to see. But he did bring us into a spring, and I think that's why we want to tell that story, is because we want to encourage people to hold on to God in the winter, stick it out in relationships,
right.
Don't give up, and that he will bring good from it, because we've seen it.
Yeah. In our final moments together here, I want to ask you, what has been the biggest takeaway for each of you, having now put your story on paper, pen to paper? What have you learned about each other, about God, and this new season of exciting collaboration that's been birthed within you?
I mean, just in a couple sentences, I think just seeing over and over again in this process of writing this book, just the full circle moments that God is just so good. He is the God of hope. He is the God of restoration. He is the God of redemption, and that we can trust and rest in his goodness because he will bring it around. We've just got to stick it out, have a lasting ever kind of love that we receive from God, that we can love him with, but then also love our loved ones with, especially in marriage.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah, I think it's rare to be forced to reflect on your life to the degree that you have to write a memoir.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it really was a gift to just sit and pause and reflect and look back on each of our lives and see the points that we didn't see before connect, and the parallels of our stories and the way God was preparing us for each. I mean, there's just so much beauty in analyzing our lives to that degree. And I think my encouragement to people would be to do something similar. I mean, even if you're not writing a book, just pause, journal, reflect, because it's very easy to miss the hand of God in our lives when we're in the middle of our situations. Yeah. But you get a bit of time away from it, you get the perspective to look back, and it's just awe-inspiring to see how intricately involved God is in every detail of our lives.
Yeah, and you know what stood out to me in your story is that nothing is wasted with God.
Nothing's wasted.
Nothing is wasted.
Yeah.
The good, the bad, and the ugly, as they say. God can work all things together for our good, not that it's all good, but that he can turn it around for something good. Thank you both for being with us today. Honestly, this has been such a life-giving conversation.
We've enjoyed it.
Thank you so much. The book is Lasting Ever. I would encourage our viewers to get your hands on it. Faith, Music, Family, and Being Found by True Love. And it's right in front of you today, folks. Thanks for being with us, Rebecca.
Thanks for having us, Mark.
Thanks for having us.
Enjoyed to be with you.